Quick, without thinking too much, when I say Porsche, what's the first car that comes to your mind? 911? Maybe the Cayenne? Okay, what's the second car that comes to your mind? Taycan, Cayman, Boxster, Macan? Maybe one of the older supercars, maybe one of the classics. I think you know what I'm getting at here. Of all the cars in the current range, probably the most overlooked and underrated is the Panamera. And I don't think that's fair. In fact, it's flown under the radar for so long that even I need to reacquaint myself with it. And to do that, I'm going to take it on a nice long road trip to Lonavala. The monsoon is just about hitting here in Mumbai, and I think that's going to make it rather special. If you like Porsches as much as I do, I hope you subscribe to Autocar India. I assure you there'll be loads more of them on here very soon. And show some love for the Panamera down in the comments, and don't forget to drop this video a like if you enjoy it. Now, where were we? So nice to be back on the road, and we are all set. Full tank of lovely high octane petrol. Showing me over 420 kilometers of range. Nice. And I think doing a road trip in this Panamera is going to reveal a lot of interesting stuff, because even though it's quite overlooked and underrated, there's a lot riding on this Panamera's svelte shoulders. Now, like all Porsches, it's expected to drive well, and like all Porsches, it does. But there's a little bit more with the Panamera. It has to do it all. It has to be sporty, practical, luxurious, great to drive, and on top of that, cool as well. And frankly, I think it achieves that and then some. It's early still and traffic is scant, so I'm at the outskirts of Mumbai in no time. Now, it's been about 6 years since I drove a Panamera last, and I've forgotten just how extravagant and wild this interior is. It's just so dramatic. Now, full disclaimer right up front. This particular car was a demonstrator for Porsche's exclusive manufacture in India. That's their customization and personalization wing. And so there are a lot of options on this car, both on the outside and in. Things like this Bordeaux leather upholstery, which is really quite loud. And there might have been a time when we scoffed at this sort of thing, but in this car somehow it fits. In an age of Ranveer Singh, anything's possible. And of course, this being a Porsche, you can go absolutely wild with the options, and there's some really classy stuff. But more than any of that, it's just the layout of this cabin that's just so different from your average luxury sedan. You're sat low and far back, long bonnet stretching out in front of you, high center console with all these controls played out over here. The iconic Porsche 5 dials, although only the center one is an analog dial, the rest are all digital. Big touchscreen, that's to be expected, but it gives you such a cool 911-like vibe, and isn't that just what you want from a Porsche? There are things I'm still not a fan of, like this excessive use of touch controls over here. I think Porsche is learning from that, as they've shown with the new Cayenne. And the irritating fact that you can't even adjust the AC vents without going into the touchscreen. But I digress, because the Panamera's real touring credentials come to life out on the highway. As I get onto the Mumbai-Pune expressway, it's time to open up the taps a little and enjoy myself. However, so you see, I don't understand why people overlook the Panamera the way they do. There's some people that will only ever buy an SUV, but for sedan lovers like us, there can only be one. No.
Look, in my line, I get ready. Feeling too trippy, get it cracking like a levy. I'ma show them all how to party if they let me. Cue the countdown and release the confetti.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nikhil Bhatia has joined us. In a Porsche Taycan, no less. I didn't think he was a morning person. He must have some sort of point to make. And I suppose now that we are approaching the food court, he's gonna want to stop for breakfast. Yes, sure enough.
Hey man, cool car. What do you do for a living?
Stop! Stop it! Stop it! I know what you're trying to do, and we're not doing that. This is my story about the Porsche Panamera, and you don't need to do this.
Do what?
Look, I know we did a great story about the EQS and the S-Class. If you haven't seen it, please go watch it on our YouTube channel, like, share, subscribe. But we don't have to do another ICE versus EV story every time two cars like this come along.
But why? I mean, what's wrong with this nice blue Taycan?
I mean, did we not drive a Porsche Taycan for 4,500 kilometers? Everybody's seen it already. Why are we doing it again?
Except this is not that Taycan. It's blue, yes, but that was frozen blue. This is Neptune blue.
Oh.
And a small detail. It's got a Turbo S at the end of its name.
I have one of those as well.
Very nice. But over today, I'm going to tell you that this car's time is up. You don't need a Panamera when a Taycan exists.
I knew this was coming. Oh God. Okay. I suppose we've stopped here so we can have breakfast or something?
No. We won't stop here. We'll go further ahead. Slight detour. We'll get some nice food. And over the day, you'll get what I'm saying. See you. Follow me.
Look, in my line, I get ready. Feeling too trippy, get it cracking like a levy. I'ma show 'em all how to party if they let me. Keep the countdown and release the confetti.
Did you see his face? He's so smug, isn't he? Well, he's about to get a bit of a wake-up call because those of you who live in the Mumbai-Pune region know where we are right now, and we are in the process of climbing up a hill, or a ghat as we like to call it.
Okay, I'll admit, Gavin's not entirely wrong, but I'm not worried. Electric vehicles love gravity. Electric vehicles also hate going against gravity. The ghat I'm on, the one that leads up to Lonavala, can really drain your average electric four-wheeler's battery. But that's not a problem on the Taycan because it's got a 93 kilowatt-hour battery pack. So you're really well catered to, and range anxiety is, well, a distant feeling. I think if Porsche engineers set out to develop a four-door 911, the Taycan is closer to that concept than the Panamera is, and that's because it feels like a tighter car. It feels small, it feels light, and that's pretty much the essence of the 911. And that's something I've always found missing in the Panamera, which to me feels a bit too large, a bit too heavy. Performance is just next level, and you don't need to go all the way up to the Turbo S to experience the might of the Taycan's electric motors. But since I do find myself in a Turbo S, it'll only be polite to put it in Sport Plus and go all out. Ready, steady, go. Okay. It's like having launch control at every speed. 760 horsepower, 1050 Newton meters of torque. You can sure feel that.
I'm sure you can, because what my enthusiastic colleague has failed to mention is that 760 horsepower is only available when using launch control. The rest of the time it has 625 horsepower, which is 5 less than the Panamera. But as it turns out, he was about to commit a far bigger offense. What's he doing? What's he doing? No! No, turn left! No! He's going straight, past the exit to my destination. Of course he is. What restaurant is this that is right around the corner and isn't in Lonavala? But nope. I will remain calm. I'm driving a very nice car and I'm here to enjoy it and tell you about why it's so good. And I will not let his sabotage get in the way. So let's do that, shall we? Let me tell you more about the Panamera Turbo S. And since I now have more expressway to cover, how about that V8? This is the facelifted Panamera, and that means it went from being a Panamera Turbo to being a Panamera Turbo S. All that means really is it's the same twin-turbo 4-litre V8 engine, but power has gone up from 550 horsepower to 630. And now Nikhil's probably in the Taycan going on about how the responses are instantaneous and so much torque on tap at all times from no RPM. But I'm sorry. Get a load of this. Yes, the Taycan's responses may be instantaneous. I get that. That is an advantage. But do not for 1 second underestimate the power of a Porsche twin turbo. And in this car, there's no torque converter like you might get in the Cayenne or something like that. No, this one's an 8-speed PDK, double clutch gearbox. So really, it is quick as hell with its shifts. And one thing everybody knows that he can absolutely never ever take away from this absolute beauty of a car is that engine noise. No amount of sci-fi synthesized anything can replicate 8 exploding cylinders. I'm getting a bit carried away. I think I might have lost it. Probably trying to conserve his battery. Because look, I know at some point I'll run out of petrol too. I finished over a quarter of the tank since I left Mumbai. We've done about 100 kilometers. It's not great. But I know that there are dozens and dozens of fuel stations along the way. And at any given point, I just need to stop for 5 minutes. I'll be tanked up again. I hope he's brought a book because he's going to have to charge up at some point.
No, I'm actually more than fine on range, thank you very much. Like I said before, the massive performance battery plus on the Taycan means it's got proper grand touring range. And if Gavin keeps indulging that V8 with his right foot, I'm going to be the one waiting for him. No, I'm enjoying my brisk highway jaunt, which brings me to another point. I'm personally not the right person to talk about this, but don't you think the Panamera looks a bit heavy? Now I know all you spec page enthusiasts will furiously type in that the Taycan is heavier than the Panamera. Yes, it is, but in feel, the Taycan sure as hell feels lighter. It feels light on its feet, it feels just more enthusiastic, more energetic, more youthful even. Okay, I will give the Panamera this, that when you are driving fast on a nice and twisty road, it is one of those cars that sort of shrinks itself around you. But the thing is, the Taycan doesn't need to because it's already so nice and tight.
Yeah, I have no idea what he's on about either. What I can tell you though is that the Panamera is every bit the consummate continent crusher it promises to be. Now I've just shown you how incredibly potent this twin turbo V8 is, but I can just as easily flick it back into normal mode, comfort mode, and we're cruising gently. And this feels like it ranks amongst the best limos around. Sure, these 21-inch wheels, a little bit questionable when it comes to going over some of the bumpier parts of road, like the one we just passed over there. And yeah, you feel that little side-to-side movement and a little lumpiness as the tires go thunk-thunk. But those minor, infrequent inconveniences aside, it's got air suspension, the ride is nice and cushy, and I could cruise like this for hours and hours non-stop. I suppose the Taycan is a little bit more refined, but really, this is quiet enough. I'd hardly call this harsh or disturbing in any way.
In no known universe is a V8 quieter than an EV, but sure, whatever floats your Turbo S boat. The loudest thing in my car is my stomach rumbling, and before either of us get hangry, I think it's time we get to brunch. And yes, I did pick the perfect spot. So, welcome to German Bakery Pune. It's a place very close to my heart, and we've come into German super sedans, so I think it's fitting as well.
Okay, and now tell me the real reason why we're here.
This slight detour that's got us to Pune instead of Lonavala is also to establish the fact that range anxiety isn't a thing with my EV. I still have 50% charge. What are you at?
50% fuel tank, yeah.
So I think we're equal on that. So
for now,
no bragging rights for you.
For now, okay. Confidence overflowing after that range revelation, Nikhil mounted a scathing personal attack on the Panamera.
Why is it so big?
Come on, come on. You know, it looks nice. It looks so much better than the first generation Panamera. Remember that was a bit. But they've really come a long way from that. Like it looks nice. I don't know what you're talking
But
about.
this is the Gen 1 Taycan and it looks like 1,000 times better.
They had a lot of time to prepare, no? They really did. I mean, okay, fine. Fair enough. The Taycan, I think, is much better interpretation of a Ford or 911.
Just say it's better looking, no?
It's better looking. It's better looking. It looks. I love the headlights. I love the taillights. It's cool. But
The only thing I really like about the Panamera is that Iron Man spoiler.
yeah. I mean, I have to keep an eye out for it. Take my eyes off the road to look at it in my rearview mirror. But it is so cool when it happens.
But the actual fun driving, I think, will be after we head out of Pune.
Oh, listen, we're going back to Lonavala. I had a plan, and I'm sticking to that plan. So we're going.
I heard a lot about your plans, so which is why I'm excited for once about your plan.
Yeah. Please, you conserve that 50% battery of yours. Hope you make it there. Okay?
Likewise, you also need to save fuel. Huh? You won't make it to Lonavala.
Speaking of fuel, can we please eat?
Yeah, it's on its way. Chalo.
Well, I'll give him one thing. The food was good, but I don't know if it was worth this entire detour all the way into Pune just to tell me how much range he had. But actually, I have a little bit more than 50% of a tank. I was wrong. I let him be smug for no reason. But there is one thing I have to concede now that we're sitting in Pune's traffic is that this Panamera is not a whole lot of fun at doing this. That low, sporty driving position, that's great when you're going fast and around corners. Not so much fun when you're trying to negotiate tight gaps in traffic. The bonnet stretches out straight and sort of dips towards the end, not like the Taycan where you can see the two headlight haunches at the very end. And again, the steering, which is that typical Porsche weighty, heavy thing, which is again great when you're driving fast and gives you tremendous feel and whatnot. Not so much fun here in traffic. I think that's something they've worked on with the Taycan, which is a hugely heavy car, so they've made it so that it's quite effortless. I remember this from the other car. But here in the Panamera, no, it's still quite a heavy thing to steer.
Wow, that sounds kind of awful. In fact, quite the opposite of Gavin's seemingly butt-clenching drive through Pune, the Taycan feels like any old luxury sedan around town. For a car with performance as explosive as the Taycan Turbo S, it's actually very friendly to drive in the city. Now, visibility outside is excellent, which is a hallmark of all great Porsches. And what I also really like is that the controls are very light and likable. The steering doesn't require much effort. Accelerator modulation is very predictable, so you don't get thrown back every time. You just want to move on slowly. Who would have thought a 760 horsepower car would fit into the everyday grind so easily? You do have to be careful about speed breakers, though. That is the nemesis of all electric cars, especially this low slung variety. You do have a shortcut which is in easy access, but it functions only under 30 kilometers an hour. It does give you enough clearance, but you will have to keep an eye out for those big ones. Another big positive of the Taycan is ride comfort. Now, you don't get jolted around as you do in many other electric cars, which is particularly impressive on the Taycan because it's running very thin tires on very large rims. It's got to be something in the suspension setup, as if they've overcompensated for the extra weight, because even though both cars have air springs and huge wheels, the Taycan feels downright pillowy compared to the Panamera. Gavin says he's not keeping score, but I sure am. And that's one more point for Team Taycan. I should maybe keep my mouth shut though, because we're both running out of juice and we're going to need to top up before we head up to Lonavala.
Oh yes, Nikhil's about to be knocked off his proverbial high horse, but I'm not exactly out of the woods either. You see, we've been running the Panamera on the good stuff, super premium 100 octane petrol, and we want to keep it that way, but that's not easy to come by.
And likewise, my big 93 kilowatt hour battery needs a super fast charger to top up quick enough. And those are few and far between as well. Ultimately, I settle for a not so fast 50 kilowatt DC charger where Gavin is filling up and the race is on.
And about 7 minutes later, the race was done.
Man, I just waited in 2 queues and got lost once. You're done?
Yeah, almost. Yeah, like just the 5 to 45 minutes.
5 to 45 minutes. Let me just check. Right.
Not want to be considerate to someone who has invaded my story, I am more than happy to get a head start and drive home the point I've been making since the beginning.
I get what he's saying to an extent. Yes, that Taycan is probably the future. And ever since it came along, nobody even thinks about this car anymore, right? You want a Porsche sedan, you get the Taycan. That's just how it is. But come on, this is internal combustion at its very finest. We're not going to have this very soon. Certainly not a V8. Shouldn't we be cherishing it, celebrating it, enjoying it as much as we can right now? That's what I set out to do. And that's what I intend to do.
And then it hits. As the road snakes up towards the misty climbs of Lonavala and beyond, something wakes up inside the Panamera, and if I'm honest, inside me too.
I can safely say that there's always that little something that puts these cars a level above most others. The steering just waits up so nicely. It's precise, it's tight. And even though you are aware of this car's size at all times, it's big, it's wide, and it's heavy. Put it in Sport Plus mode and man, it just shrinks around you so well. And even though the steering is nice and accurate and quite weighty in the Taycan, just doesn't feel alive like this one does. In the Taycan, speed is a non-event. In the Panamera, every turn of the wheel, every prod of the accelerator pedal is an event. Everything feels so modular and tactile. There's revs to play with. There's a fluidity to the steering. It's just analog, which is something I fear we're not going to have for very much longer. The more and more I drive it like this, the more I start to realize that yes, while the Taycan is impressive on paper, it's way too sanitized. It is the future and that's great, but man, call me old-fashioned, but I like living in the past.
While Gavin was getting all emotional, the brutally effective Taycan and I easily caught up. But here's the thing, being an EV hasn't stopped it from being a Porsche. It's on a twisty road like this that the Taycan really feels like the Porsche electric car it was always intended to be. There's a lovely precision to the steering wheel and this car just grips and grips and grips. And what that means is you're not intimidated by all the power at your disposal. In fact, you can really enjoy all that this car has to offer. Well, not all, but most of it. Then again, with 760 horsepower to play with, you have to level up and get your reflexes up to speed with those of the car and enjoy all the performance on offer responsibly. To experience the benefits of mass centralization, you need to drive a Panamera and then you need to switch to a Taycan. Now this is a heavier car on paper, but because all of its mass is low down in the body, it has a lower center of gravity and you can feel as much because this is a more agile, more entertaining handler.
So yeah, they can both pull their weight quite literally on a twisty road. But that can't be it, right? These aren't just Porsches, they're Turbo S's. And that means they're the fastest of the lot. And that got me thinking, we've got to go big. So, on the way up from Pune, I made a few calls, lined a few things up, and well...
So,
Nice.
this is what it's come to then.
Yeah, I mean, a grand end to your grand day, but don't you think it's the wrong car you've come with?
Well, your car might be faster on paper, but it's got you behind the wheel, so I think it evens out.
Sweet, very sweet, but prepare to be smoked. Smoked!
This is all talk because let's be honest, a Turbo S is a Turbo S is a Turbo S, and they're all great off the line and they're all great down the drag strip. So I think we're all gonna have a great time here. But doesn't Porsche make another Turbo S?
Hmm.